The voice of sharing Durian ASEAN.
ASEAN Dailies. First and the foremost news from Southeast Asia.
Hi, this is Arlene.
Hi, this is Gowri.
And of course, you are with us on our ASEAN Daily, where we bring you news every morning at 8 o'clock. So, to start off the news today, something is brewing in Singapore.
That's right, just below us in Singapore, something that happened quite a few months ago that drew a huge outrage, and we're talking about Amos Yee, of course, who was released after a 4-week jail term is backdated. And it's very funny how this thing happened, because they issued him a 4-week jail sentence, but since it was backdated, he didn't have to go to jail at all because it was expired by the time they issued it. So
This is the weirdest thing I ever heard before.
Yeah,
it's like you're sentenced to jail, but you are actually kind of jailed before, so
you're free now, and he walks out. That's right. But there's actually been a lot of mixed reactions about this as well. For one thing, Amos Yee has apologized and said that what he did could actually disrupt social harmony, and he has taken down whatever contents that he posted on social media. And some people are happy that this boy is being given a second chance, but some people are saying that he still needs to learn his lesson.
By going to jail, you mean? I think that's a bit too much for a 16-year-old. I mean, just for posting something that is typically of a 16-year-old, you would expect they would post something as something like that. I don't think you should put them to jail. I mean, the most you can do is just give them
counseling or.
I think you don't even need to do anything. That's the thing.
Right.
Because when you are young, you should be able to freely express yourself as long as you don't harm other people. You should be able to think or share whatever you want. I'm sure after this he will be able to be more matured. In fact, to his credit, I think he's much more mature than people his age. I think the saddest thing about the younger generation today is not being able to think at all or to think critically at all.
That's right. And I think also they have mentioned before in Singapore that they want to have more critical thinkers, and they want to have a more liberal society where people are open-minded and you can have discussion. But at the same time, when somebody says something a little different, it's so hard for them to accept. So I don't know if they're actually ready to go there, to head towards that's liberal society mindset.
Glad that you mentioned about liberal society. Last weekend I went to this talk organized by Ideas regarding on whether Malaysia is ready for a liberal political party. So the political party aside, I don't think even Malaysia is ready for a liberal society. The same goes to Singapore. I mean, one of the essence of a liberal society is democracy and freedom of expression. Freedom of expression in this case meaning that you are able to have differences in opinions, agree to disagree. You don't have to agree with entirely what Amos Yee said in his video, but you should give him the right for him to express himself.
And he was actually brought to this Institute of Mental Health child psychiatrist Kai Yi-ming, who was the one who was in charge of sort of coaching and counseling Amos Yee back to the right path. And yeah, it was
sounds closely like our own version of Jakim. It's just that they don't probably use religion.
Probably. It also sounds a bit like what happened with the LGBT community as well in Malaysia when they try to being coached back to the right path. But I think at the end of it all, it goes back to the freedom of expression, like you were saying, because that is one of the signs that you are moving forward as a nation.
And on the other hand, talking about a nation. This is regarding on Malaysia, of course.
Why that smirk? You giggled right away at the headline.
I mean, this has been quite a circus since probably 2 weeks ago. I mean, it's been there. The news has been there for quite some time, but since 2 weeks ago, he has been such a havoc. I'm talking about the 1MDB, as well as the subsequent news after that, the expose by Wall Street Journal, and now there's a scoop photo tells all about Jho Low and Najib's relations.
Right. So last night there was this picture circulating all over Facebook and probably even Twitter as well, and it had a picture of course, our Prime Minister Najib, his wife, their daughters, Jho Low, and also Prince Turki, who is the owner of Petro Saudi, and they were all on a yacht. And what's interesting about this is it seems that Jho Low was trying to convince our Prime Minister to invest, of course, in 1MDB and all, but he managed to convince our PM that this yacht actually belongs to the Prince Turki, and he's a rich guy, when the prince actually just rented the yacht to fake it.
Really?
To our Prime Minister.
Wow.
And he bought it. So that's how I think this is the inception of the whole saga, and where it all started and where it all went wrong, because there was no thorough background check on this guy. He was just impressed. Oh, he owns a yacht. Must be, credible.
Wow, this is interesting development. But it also shows that a lot of back dealings are happening in terms of how government functions, and I hope this is not a true story, but if it's true, it shows that the government in Malaysia is still not as transparent as what we want it to be, and that is a problem. I think strengthening institution would mean strengthening the transparency of government dealings, and what is happening right now seems to be personal dealings that is happening between Jho Low and Prime Minister Najib. I hope that it's not a real story. I hope it's just another social media circus, as what we have been seeing recently. But on the other hand, I think what is important right now is to put things in perspective, and hopefully the law would decide, whether this is based on truth or false news. Right.
So our Prime Minister has also asked everyone to be calm and not speculate, because the investigations are ongoing. And like you were saying, it seems like it's more of a personal dealing between the higher authorities, and when it comes to also the handling of millions and millions of dollars, and that is the first thing that they should probably change. And same goes to our PM, if he really wants people to trust him again.
It's definitely not a good time for Najib, especially all around the world. You have the Greek debt crisis, and the economy of Malaysia is not doing well. A lot of people are being laid off, especially in the manufacturing industry. So news like 1MDB would definitely anger a lot of Malaysians. So hopefully things will get better, especially when it comes to the reality on the ground.
And hope we'll find out the truth soon enough.
So we'll take one short break. When we return, we will discuss more on the politics side of Southeast Asia.
ASEAN Dailies. First and the foremost news from Southeast Asia.
Hey, this is Arlene.
Hi, this is Gowri.
And of course, you are continuing your news consumption with us with Durian ASEAN. So, talking about Myanmar, of course, the looming story now is the election. But a lot of people might not realize fading military strength sets up Myanmar election showdown. So the Myanmar's former military rulers are used to winning the day, of course, despite losing the argument. The question is whether they will still be able to do so after landmark elections.
Right. So we do know that Myanmar actually controls a major part of the politics in Myanmar, and most of even in the seating or whatever it is, it's always the military that has the most power when it comes to the administration. And people were very skeptical about the upcoming elections, because they think that if the military is going to have the same power, it's going to be as powerful, then what is the point of having a democratic elections anyway? because it's still going to be up to the military to decide.
That's true. And at the end of the day, I think when it comes to discourse on Myanmar's transition towards democracy, a lot of people are questioning whether it's true democracy because a lot of the elements are still very much controlled by military. For example, the constitution is still very much the old constitution being used, being created in 2008 during the military ruling. And of course, when it comes to the parliamentary seating, 25% of the parliamentarians are from the military itself. So there are still a lot of the aspect in Myanmar's politics that are still very much undemocratic in a way.
Right, and that's why with this upcoming elections, it seems that the military's strength has been slightly fading, and that is giving hope to a lot of people, especially to Aung San Suu Kyi, who is of course heading the National League for Democracy party, and she is hoping for a positive change in the country after this.
But I'm still questioning whether it's a farce or not when it comes to democracy in Myanmar. But one thing that is quite positive that is happening, which we never really hear before in Myanmar, is Myanmar's workers and employers clash over minimum wage. As far as I know, back since 2009 when I went to Myanmar and I kind of experienced living under a military regime, and of course after that post 2011 where they become a slightly democratic country, I noticed very little say the workers have on employment. But this is quite a positive news, seeing that Myanmar's garment manufacturers have signaled their opposition to a proposed national minimum wage of just over $3 or 4.05 Sing dollar per day, claiming that the increase it represents could force some factories in the vital economic sector to close. Do you think employers do you side with the employers on this case?
I definitely side with the employers. I think minimum wage is a very, very important part when it comes to employment, because it's very easy for your employees.
Or for employers?
Employees.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, sorry. So I think it's very easy for employees to get exploited, and I think it has been happening a lot, especially in the Indochina region, and for them to come up to request for the minimum wage is a great thing, because before this they're probably just getting peanuts, and it's not enough for them to sustain themselves, or even due to the economic factors in the country. And I think it's because of the garment manufacturers as well. You have all these big companies coming in, but they don't pay you like they're a big company. They actually exploit their workers. You can be student, you can be pregnant or sick, and they don't really care. They just try to get the most out of you with the least pay that they can provide.
Actually, you know what? When it comes to the garment industry, I think we should look at it at a global scale. And I agree with the employer side, the manufacturer side. Factories can be closed because the supply chain of the garment industry relies so much on the low cost of labor, and a lot of the factories, whenever they make a decision to set up plants in whichever country, usually they will set up plants in country that offer the least cost of labor. That's why you see countries like Bangladesh as well as Cambodia become the hub for the garment industry. But at the same time, do you really think this is a sustainable way for countries to keep up becoming the, I would say, the hub for garment manufacturing industry? I think governments should be a bit more intelligent in this, in a way that just because they can offer cheaper labor doesn't mean that it's good for the country. And because of that, I understand the concern of the manufacturer, but at the same time, I do believe that it will not be, in the long term, we will not be good for the country.
I think I will have to agree with you on that, because as much as it's probably a source of income for them, if the workers are not being treated right, not being given their basic rights as an employer, then in the long run, to look at the bigger picture, it will not be beneficial for anybody, not for the people, not for the country, not for the economy, which will eventually impact the Southeast Asian economy as well. But minimum wage is something that I think is important, because even if we look at Malaysia, we do have a minimum wage, but
and
it doesn't.
It's still a farce.
Exactly, it doesn't necessarily meet with the cost of living in this country, and the figures don't tally. So I think that being in the industry, and when you are trying to fight for a minimum wage, and always make sure that it's in line with the cost of living in the country, or else there's just no point.
I definitely want to congratulate Myanmar government for this time for increase the minimum wage, although it's still very much low in our standard, Malaysian standard. But I think at least they're doing something to address the issue of labor and employment. Regarding on ASEAN, so on the other hand, ASEAN is curbing irregular movement of persons. This has a lot to do with migration.
Right, and also human trafficking. So Vietnam has affirmed that it will work very closely with the regional countries to deal with the irregular movement of persons in Southeast Asia. And this was said during the emergency ASEAN ministerial meeting on transnational crime in Malaysia yesterday, according to the Deputy Minister of Public Security, Tho Lam. And he also said that the irregular movement of persons in the region has become such a complicated problem, and I'm glad they're finally seeing that, and that such movements will also have a lot of negative impacts on not just the country itself, but on ASEAN community as a whole.
Definitely a great move for the ASEAN ministerial meeting this time to discuss thoroughly on the issue regarding human trafficking and illegal immigrants, because it has been impacting the credibility of ASEAN, especially that infamous boat people crisis we had earlier this year. So in a way, I do hope ASEAN could create mechanism to curb this and have all the countries working together, because at the end of the day, it is not just about economic cooperation, it's also about political cooperation to ensure that the movement of people in Southeast Asia are being monitored in a way where they are not being abused by the black market or human traffickers.
And human trafficking is a very, very grave issue, especially if we look at Malaysia. There was a recent crackdown in Thailand as well, which was another positive move, because that really kind of opened Pandora's box, and we had to deal with the influx, thousands of people on the boat, and I think the entire region was shocked, because we never really had to deal with something like that, apart from one that happened back, was it in the 70s?
Yeah.
Right. So that was a wake-up call for us, and like
it was migration from Vietnam at the time.
Right.
But that's the problem. Like, it's easy to curb economic migration because you consider them illegal immigrants. But what about political migration? In this case, they are considered refugees.
And it becomes a more complex situation in that sense. And when it comes to the human rights tier as well, I think most ASEAN countries are not doing very well, and this is probably a first move for us to move forward in that area, and hopefully, like you said, they will come up with a mechanism. It's not just about discussion and having talks and like, okay, yeah, we are going to do this.
But things will not go as smoothly as you want to if the biggest country in Southeast Asia doesn't seem interested to meddle with what is happening in Southeast Asia. I'm talking about Indonesia. So the question is Indonesia about to ditch ASEAN?
Will they ditch us? I don't know. But it seems that this whole question came out because of President Joko Widodo's way of trying to focus more on the domestic politics rather than international or a regional way of handling things.
So it seems like President Joko Widodo's wider strategic vision for Indonesia's growing international profile and intra-ASEAN discord, particularly about the South China Sea disputes, have intensified discussion about whether Indonesia is poised for a post-ASEAN foreign policy strategy.
So it's not only us who are skeptical about the AEC, it's Jokowi himself has stepped forward and said, yeah, I'm not sure if this is actually going to happen, this whole creating a single market by the end of this year. I think it doesn't sound very realistic to him either. And therefore, it will probably relegate Indonesia to being just a market for goods produced by its neighbors. But then again, Indonesia is actually quite important for us because they are one of the largest country when it comes to Southeast Asia, and there is a huge population and a huge potential when it comes to market in ASEAN.
I think he sees more advantage for him to meddle with Indonesia on its own, and it's true that the future of ASEAN is somehow rely a lot on Indonesia's participation in ASEAN. In this case, it seems like Jokowi is more concerned with Indonesia's position in among globally rather than how Indonesia can help Southeast Asia or ASEAN move forward in this case.
Right, and Jakarta is also handling a lot of ASEAN Secretariat, if I'm not mistaken, and they are one of the strongest partners and one of the most stable ones. So I think that if they do ditch us, we will have a lot of problems. So let's hope it doesn't really go there.
So the post-ASEAN argument is more of an argument for going beyond ASEAN centrality, not ASEAN per se. So that's the core of, I guess, Indonesia's approach towards Southeast Asia.
But is it really possible for us to have an ASEAN centrality when we're talking about that? Because we do know that every country in ASEAN prefers to keep to themselves and their own domestic issues.
I think a lot to have ASEAN centrality, definitely ASEAN needs to reinvent itself. In this case, maybe review ASEAN Charter as well as reviewing the commitments of each ASEAN countries in core ASEAN issues or crises. We'll take another short break. When we return, we will talk more about the economic and socio-cultural of Southeast Asia.
ASEAN Dailies. First and the foremost news from Southeast Asia.
Hey, this is Arlene.
Hi, this is Gowri.
Of course, you're still with us. So, regarding on when it comes to business, when we talk about who is the biggest trading partner in Southeast Asia, the first country that comes to our mind is China. But when it comes to Cambodia, apparently Japan becomes China's business rival.
Right, and Prime Minister Han Sein returned on Monday, which was just yesterday, after a weekend spent in Japan that included a day trip, and he also went into the south of Tokyo to the Yamaguchi prefecture, which is the home base of Prime Minister Shinzo Abe. And his trip was out of Tokyo, and it was also followed by Prime Minister Abe's summit in Saturday with the leaders of 5 Mekong nations, which is Cambodia, Laos, Myanmar, Thailand, and Vietnam. And this seems like everyone knows about China's massive aid. Of course, like you were mentioning, they are the biggest trading partner when it comes to Southeast Asia or Asia itself. But Japan's courtship is actually getting more and more serious.
And apparently for Japan, it is literally paving the way for Japanese investors to shift east out of Thailand to Cambodia. I guess Thailand is no longer the kind of nirvana they thought would be for businesses.
Exactly. And it's interesting because this article also compared this to like a dating game, because now they have 2 suitors, both going for the same country, and this can only be beneficial because when you have that sort of rivalry, that competition, you tend to want to outdo each other, and you probably at the end of it all, it will be beneficial for all 3.
So you prefer sushi or? Or dumplings, Chinese dumplings for your date?
Well, I think I would go with sushi. For me, that is. And also it seems that from a non-player almost a decade ago, Japan is suddenly Cambodia's third largest source of investment, just after Vietnam and China. So Japan is really serious about making it work here with the Mekong countries, and especially with Cambodia right now.
Definitely true. When it comes to Japan, they are investing heavily in Southeast Asia. They are seeing that Southeast Asia definitely is the market for the next 20 years for them. And that's why you see a lot of investors' interest coming into Southeast Asia. On the other hand, talking about trade in finance and legal sector, Singapore and Myanmar will be jointly working together.
Right, and it seems Singapore and Myanmar have also signed a memorandum of understanding to cooperate in a lot of sectors, mainly the banking supervision and capacity building, and they will also be exchanging views on developing an interbank funding market today in Yangon. And both countries also talked a lot about how they can further deepen their cooperation. And I think it will be very beneficial for Myanmar to join Singapore, which has one of the strongest economy again in Southeast Asia, although it's the smallest country as well, but they have proven themselves to be an economic giant. And there were also a lot of representatives from Singapore and Myanmar who joined this meeting, and it's probably best for them to develop their bilateral relationship.
I'm really looking forward for the interbank funding market, because both countries are talking about areas to funds, including creating solution for urban issues, transport and logistic, agri-trades, of course expansion of air connectivity and development of SMEs. So all these areas need money, and definitely the interbank funding market would provide that solution for that. So let's move on to our fun part of Southeast Asia.
That's right. So first of all, we have a call for film submissions. So for all the aspiring filmmakers out there, if you have an ASEAN-themed film or you intend to make one, you can join this Cambodia International Film Festival.
I didn't know they have an international film festival
They
in
probably
Cambodia.
just came up with it.
That's awesome, man.
So what are the terms to submit for this film festival?
I have to read through. I'm not sure.
Well, first of all, you definitely have to make an ASEAN-centric film, of course, and it will be held in Cambodia. And it seems that following the previous years, so this is not actually the first time that they are having this. The film festival will highlight films from different countries as well, focusing on French and Korean films. But this year, they will be focusing on Japanese and Malaysia.
How awesome is that? And
So
announcing that this will be the first time Malaysian cinema is spotlighted outside of its home country. Yay, Malaysia boleh.
Well, wait, is Malaysia cinema even being spotlighted in its own country?
Yeah, that's the problem, right? The festival will also premiere many Malay films and introducing people in the Malaysian film industry to Cambodia. We should go there, Gowri.
We should, and if we can, we should also try to contribute something to the film festival.
Awesome.
I think it can also be a very short film. It doesn't say here how long does the film have to be, so I think for more information it's best to just go to the website cambodiacfc.org to find out about the festival.
So there you go. Definitely looking forward to the Cambodia International Film Festival, and of course, slews of Malay films that are unfortunately not being recognized that much in Malaysia.
I think it's very tricky because we have been so influenced by, I think, Hollywood films that we constantly want to see a lot of CGI and things blowing up and cars flying here and there, that when we are given something that is maybe set in the kampong or what, we are just tired of that. We don't want to deal with that anymore. But that is actually the beautiful part about Malaysia.
That's true. Yeah, and I think we I mean, with ASEAN, definitely Malaysian film can go further than our national shores.
And it's great that we have a platform now for our local filmmakers to actually showcase their work, especially on the culture of Malaysia and Southeast Asia.
So, on the other hand, besides talking about film festival, someone else is celebrating his birthday. Do you like Ultraman?
I love Ultraman.
Oh my god, me
I
too.
grew up watching Ultraman, of course.
And of course, Godzilla, I still remember the old version, not the new one. That was awesome. And when I watched it back, I was like, oh my god, the CGI is definitely
well, you can
outdated.
thank Mr. Eiji Tsuburaya here, who is celebrating his birthday today. Of course, he was responsible for a lot of the special effects that went into Godzilla, and he was also one of the main creator of Ultraman. And once again, give it to the Japanese.
That's amazing. I want to ask him why Ultraman doesn't have an underwear.
Okay.
And I'm
I hope
wear
he's
like
still alive, though.
Okay, that's all for our news today. You can always catch us again the same time, 8 to 9 o'clock news, where we bring you news from Southeast Asia, Monday to Friday.
That's right. And please don't forget to like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter. We also have Instagram, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for all the podcast, the daily news, as well as our interviews.